Hello, everyone, and welcome to our presentation on how to avoid data and cybersecurity breaches and ensure business continuity in a zero trust world. I will now be sharing my screen with you. I'm Natalie Edison. I'm an IT, data protection, and cybersecurity lawyer. I also provide DPO as a services. With over 20 years of experience in business management and over 6 years of experience in the legal field, I specialized on building and implementing custom-made security and data protection services. I will be leading the first 30 minutes of this presentation, whereafter I will give the floor over to Reuben Bram. Reuben, will you introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, I'm just having trouble with my camera, so I'll try to okay, now I'm back. Thank you, Natalie, for introducing me. I am Reuben Bram. I am the VP Marketing at Cyberint. Basically, Cyberint is a threat intelligence company and a vendor of platform. Me, myself, have a lot of experience in marketing and business development in the cyberspace for the last more than 11 years. And I'm happy to join Natalie and do this webinar together. Thank you, Natalie.
Beautiful. Thank you, Reuben. On our agenda today, we will be discussing 3 building blocks. First of all, we will discuss how to manage risk in digital transformation, whereby I will discuss the post-pandemic digital transformation, the fact that transformation comes with risks have consequences, and how managing risk requires a paradigm shift, but also a mind shift. Then I will discuss what is zero trust and preliminary steps to implement zero trust. Finally, I will discuss the zero trust strategy implementation, which is built on 3 different phases. First of all, you prepare for breach, then you monitor breach, and then you respond to breach. This session is being recorded, and a recording of the webinar will be provided to you by the end of this week. Some of today's takeaways are, or should be, you will be able to understand the current data protection and cybersecurity challenges and their impact on your businesses. You will be able to follow the strategy that is to be implemented to tackle these threats and risks, either from the inside of your organization or from the outside. Of course, you can always consider our role in supporting this strategy. Disruptive events may have changed history, but they're also going to form the future. Since the pandemic, we have seen companies increasing remote working, enhancing online services, migrating their data to the cloud, and engaging with new and advanced technologies. Their digital footprint is going to continue and grow. What I'm trying to say is that digital transformation comes with a lot of risk. As you can see on the slide, threats are looming, security is very slow, and suddenly everything and everyone becomes an attack vector. Some of the attacker trends we have been able to see lately are among the list that you can see in front of you. So we've been seeing a lot of identity theft, ransomware attacks, phishing attacks, and non-payment and non-delivery attacks. Mainly, the objective of these attacks are either for financial gain or political considerations. Sometimes it's even an employee who is seeking for revenge. As you may understand, risks have consequences. A lot of companies have been dealing with a lot of data breaches lately, security breaches, financial losses, legal actions. The most important from the list in front of you, which I personally find, is the breach of trust. Trust is the most important thing for your company to engage with consumers. So Once you've lost trust, it is very difficult to regain it. As you can see on this slide, the importance of trust, 1 in 3 data suppliers in response to their data protection practices or lack of practices. Following here too, risk also comes with accountability and responsibility. So who is to blame when a data leak or a security breach arrives? Is it the board? Is it the company? Is it your CEO? Is it the IT department? And what about the employees? Talking about employees, in reality, we see that very little employees feel free to report the fact that they have clicked on a malicious email. So why is that? First of all, employees do not want to be blamed. Second, maybe they just don't think that it's important enough and that it will lead to a breach. Third, they don't feel the need to bother their superiors with that fact, which is a shame. Managing risk requires a paradigm shift. A lot of companies are based, not all of them, but a lot are based on this ecosystem where they evolve everything and everyone around trust and innovation. So they have this idea, they want to innovate, they are doing a lot of data sharing, and they are very much compliant with data protection rules and data protection laws. But they're built on a trust culture whereby they trust the entire network and everybody that is included in this network. This type of ecosystem model does not contribute to managing risk. Managing risk requires a paradigm shift to innovation and zero trust. Companies need to understand that in order to thrive in the coming future, they need to maximize data protection and they need to minimize data utility in order to gain more revenue. Companies need to start thinking more and more about data risk. They have to balance legal risks, business risks, and privacy risk. More than all, companies need to assume breach. They have to start thinking about data security. Managing risks also requires a mindset shift. Companies need to always assume breach. So why is that? First of all, new threats are constantly looming. When confronted with a breach, companies mainly take too long to respond because they don't have the right procedures. They also do not know who's to deal with the procedure. So there is a breach and then they start looking and thinking, which is too late. Data protection alone is a partial safe ground. The same counts to digital software protection and digital risk protection beyond the perimeter. Cybersecurity is or has to be maintained at different levels. So what is zero trust? Zero trust is a strategy that helps prevent successful breaches by eliminating the concept of trust from an organization network. Zero trust is meant to enable you to stop an attack before it happens. Hereby, you can see that the 3 foundational principles of zero trust, which I will discuss a bit later, but these are always verify and never trust, continuously control privileged access, and always, but always assume breach. Some preliminary steps to be taken in order to implement the zero trust strategy. First of all, you have to start with the mindset. You have to have a 360-degree bird's eye view on your business insights, on your business threats, on access controls, and on security capabilities in order to protect your data. Second, you also need the right people on board in order to implement the zero trust strategy. So who needs to be involved? Absolutely everybody. As you can see on the slide, shareholders, CEO, the IT department, the employees, the legal team, your DPO, of course, and your partners. A question that I receive a lot from my clients is, how can I explain or justify the fact that we need to invest in data protection and in threat intelligence? Well, the answer is very simple. Your shareholders do not need you to justify your investment. Your shareholders need you to explain the fact that you have a plan, that you have thought about all the steps necessary to implement it, and that you have the right people in order to execute it. Phase 1 of the ZeroTrust strategy implementation begins with prepare for breach. First and foremost, before you can implement anything, you need to know your data. You need to define data. You need to define your sensitive information. You need to know where it is located, who has access to it. You need to classify data in terms of importance and potential harm if stolen. You need to know the identity of the data owners. You need to determine, is the data necessary? Is the data obsolete? Has it become a burden? Does it pose any unnecessary risk? And always eliminate data when it no longer serves you or is no longer necessary. You need to back your data up. You need to make sure your data is confidential. So there are a lot of ways to do so. You can either encrypt your data, you can pseudonymize your data, you can anonymize it, limit it, and back it up. But when you back it up, you have to back it up separately. Do not back up all your entire data at the same location. A necessary steps for businesses is to understand the attack vector. A company needs to know its strengths in order to know how and if it will be attacked. You need to know what you're good at. You need to know what sets you up, what is different about you from all the others, and what is your advantage. You need to know your adversaries. You need to understand and analyze potential cyber risk on a continual basis. Your company needs to provide continuous training and awareness. It's not only about best practices or codes of conduct that you send to your employees in order to provide their signature. You need to secure data sharing, and you need to create a cybercrime savvy culture with situational awareness. You also need to provide the entire company and the employees limited access to data on a need-to-know basis only. This means that you have to maintain a data level awareness. You have to have a retention policy and follow it by heart. And you need to evaluate possible or potential risks continuously. Each company has to have a response plan. Your ZeroTrust roadmap should definitely include an incident response plan and an incident response team. And here you have to think on a 24/7 basis, because a data breach will not occur during your lunchtime. Companies need to implement security. They have to invest in data protection, they have to invest in software security, and they have to invest in threat intelligence beyond the perimeter. The second phase of our ZeroTrust strategy implementation is about monitoring breach. Companies need to have an ongoing data discovery and classification on a continuous basis. Companies need to make sure they protect data at rest or in transit. They have to continuously categorize data, minimize data, work around data retention, backups, and delete data that is unnecessary. Companies need to manage and assess risks all the time. They have to establish an ongoing and supporting way to assess the likelihoods and threats and risks to their system. Companies have to be able to identify new threats and vulnerabilities. They have to review their digital defense plan because it is not static. They have to review threat intelligence. They have to monitor activities and reports. Companies need to review risk alerts and mitigate the risks that are mentioned in them. They have to build data protection around the perimeter, and they have to build data protection and cybersecurity into all the decisions that they take. Following here too, they really need to take all the required mitigating measures. Companies need to improve the risk governance around the clock. They have to revise risk-related practices, align their risk and business strategy, align it with the people involved, and also report to the management. The third phase of our ZeroTrust strategy implementation is how to respond to breaches. So let's say a company is confronted with a data breach. What are the steps that need to be taken in order to stop the breach? So first of all, you have to contain the breach. You have to make it stop. Therefore, you need to implement immediately mitigating actions. This is why in phase one, we said that we need to have a plan, a strategy to be followed, and the team to be involved within this containing action. Second, you need to gather the facts and implement remedial action. Mostly, a data breach will need to be reported, either or both, to the data protection authorities and to individuals. Last but not least, once you have contained the breach, it doesn't mean this is over. You have to consider actions to prevent like-minded or future future data breaches. So what are the benefits of implementing ZeroTrust? A ZeroTrust strategy reduces your business and organizational risk. It helps reduce the risk of data and security breaches. It supports your compliance initiatives, but it also maximizes continuous consumer trust. My recommendations for you today are: know your business and incentivize cybersecurity. Invest in data protection, invest in threat intelligence beyond the perimeter, and invest in software protection. They who control the future control the present. Do not forget. I thank you for your attention, and I kindly pass the floor to my colleague on the webinar, Reuben Bram. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Natalie. I will share my screen in a moment. Okay, thank you, Natalie. And that was a very interesting presentation talking about Zero Trust, basically the principles of Zero Trust. And now I'd like to add some another aspect to kind of share with you how intelligence, threat intelligence specifically, can help facilitate your Zero Trust environment and your Zero Trust policy. I think not everybody is aware of it, but threat intelligence is actually looking for things beyond your perimeter, beyond your internal network systems, and trying to identify things before they hit you in a proactive manner. So let me try to illustrate this a bit more and kind of share some insights here. So let's take, for example, this is your organization, right? And you have a lot of sensitive data, PII, credentials, IP, whatever, lots of very, very sensitive information. Now, around your organization, you have multiple digital assets, right? It could be employee sites, could be development environments, social media platforms you're using, customer sites, multiple applications, payment platforms, marketing sites. All that is great because it just shows that we are in a very, very advanced digital world. And this is going to be kind of going to develop more and more. On the other hand, there is a group of very nice people, what we call threat actors, hackers, name them how you want, who are always trying, to build and to do some kind of wrong to an enterprise and find one point of entry. So basically, that is their goal. The goal can be financial, can be political, can be, even based out of their moral, but 90% of their goals are financials, and they want to harm the enterprise. So that makes it very challenging in a zero trust environment. Do you go fully zero trust and stop the business? This the pendulum, or do you facilitate? And our strategy is let's facilitate, but try to capture intelligence and chatter outside in this criminal world, and try to bring that to those organizations and help them prevent any kind of breach that may happen and their data being out. So, these guys are building ransomware, fraud. Actually, some of them build, some of them share. We know, people build malware and then sell it, or people build phishing kits and sell it. So to other hackers, and then you don't have to be a very advanced hacker, but you can definitely use it and weaponize it against, attacking an organization. And here, actually, Cyberint plays a very important part that helps identify, those kind of threat intelligence and bring it to the enterprise in a very targeted manner. Now, Natalie mentioned quite a few risks in her presentation. So this just highlights basically the core of what threat intelligence can bring to you. So it can show you a lot of your digital footprint, map the attack surface and see the vulnerabilities. Look for data leakage and ransomware risks. Try to safeguard your brand. Look out for phishing attacks, which is happening at a higher rate and in a more sophisticated manner, whether it be spear phishing to your employees or to the employees of an organization, or whether it be phishing at the level of taking on lookalike domains of the website and trying to copy your IP and harm your business and actually get the credentials out of your trusted customers. Mitigating fraud and then also protecting you from a lot of different kinds of attackware. So the basic question, actually, what is threat intelligence? So threat intelligence is actually any kind of information that you can use to help protect you from threats that have happened, that may happen, and try to identify also the source of the threats. This can help you prevent future attacks and actually protect your different resources, valuable resources that you have in an organization. The threat intelligence sources are very critical. It's not only one source, but there are multiple sources which can attack you. So you have to be in control and try to get the information from as many sources as possible. And I will highlight it a bit later in the presentation, but this just shows how complicated it is. And we shouldn't be naive in our strategy that we will be attacked by one source. It could be by the dark web, but also new sources like Telegram and Discord that are upcoming new places where a lot of these information are shared. So those are just a few examples. Now, threat intelligence can be very targeted and non-targeted. And what does it mean? It means that you can identify intelligence that is really relating to your organization, to the environment you are present in. And also the non-targeted would be intelligence on a broader basis. So regional industry intelligence, global intelligence that will help you to kind of understand the trends and then protect yourself and fortify yourself in your zero trust strategy. So Both will help you provide an early indication on possible attacks and help facilitate with threat mitigation. Okay, so this is pretty important for us to understand. Now, Natalie also mentioned a lot is everybody must be involved in this zero trust strategy. And in particular, what threat intelligence will help you is actually highlight and illustrate the risks in a better manner to the board and management. You can know which referent threats you should be prepared for, and build on, identify the intent and techniques and tools, and help you prepare a better security defense architecture. That would be the strategic look on it. And then on an operational level, you can identify and continuously monitor chatter. As I said, there are multiple sources. So the moment you cover all of them and you have control and you monitor and you can cherry pick and get the very targeted intelligence that's relevant to your organization, you are already very strong in your zero trust strategy, and you can open your network a bit more to help facilitate the business. The other thing is you can detect breaches as they occur and outside your perimeter. You can really gain visibility into attacks targeting your brand and customers outside your network, and also get the option of remediating ongoing threats. So the mitigation, the process to help immediately take action on an attack. So that's pretty important, and we shouldn't forget that. Now, to kind of highlight a bit very on a high level, the threat intelligence lifecycle, why it's important to really build a structured approach. And this is just one layer in your zero trust strategy. It's not the only layer, but if you don't look at this layer, you are actually missing an important link. So when I look at the threat intelligence lifecycle, I look at it that's building a plan that will help you really understand what's happening and to try to get visibility. And then you start to collect, you collect the data, you process the data, you analyze the data. And most of this can be done today with technology platforms, right? So cybersecurity platforms like Cyberint here can play a very important role, and then help disseminate. So it will give you the right information after analysis and give you a probability, 90% probability that you're going to be breached by this attack, or 99% or 100%, you should take action. So that kind of comfort level will make you then take an action. So you will, that dissemination will help you in your mitigation process. And then you can actually feed back to the system and try to learn for future reference, and have like a post-mortem process, which with forensic tools that are also built as a layer on top of threat intelligence tools to kind of help you in your endeavor. Now, when I look at something that is critical, I just want to highlight a few steps or few things that should be important that you could. Now, there are multiple things, but I want to highlight a few things so you can understand. One, in your zero trust strategy, it's very important to identify and monitor your external attack surface. Today, it's very critical that you map all your digital assets in a very, very extensive manner on an ongoing basis and a continuous basis. Try to identify for shadow ITs or vulnerabilities that can be in each one of those assets. Could be open ports, could be exploitable ports. And if you don't have that 360 visibility, then you are kind of in the dark, and then your zero trust strategy will have a bit of weakness there. So you really need to ensure that you identify, you get secure, and on an ongoing basis, continue to map your external attack surface. As I said, it's important to build the sources that you identify. So you map out all the sources and you have a great collection process that will, at the end of the day, help you receive pinpointed insights. You can have thousands and thousands of data, and then you will be lost in a kind of a data bomb, I would say. But instead of that, you can really get highly resoluted and pinpointed insights, which will let you take action. And actually, the faster you take action, the better it is for your zero trust strategy. So this is just to visualize some kind of the sources that you need to monitor. Online chatter, dark web indexes, social search engines, even our platform, which has like a data lake history of billions of data points that kind of we are assessed in, and we have in the last years, is also something that you can benefit from. And then, give your analysts to really understand the data and take action. And this is kind of, and social media, of course, it's pretty important. Help you in uncovering data breaches. So, if you had a data breach and your company customer passwords and your customer credentials and your internal employee credentials are out for sale, that's really bad for you, right? So any kind of security strategy that you adopt will be lacking. So you definitely have to kind of identify that and close it as quick as possible. And I will share a couple of examples just to highlight it. At the end of the day, you have to be very quick, very swift, and very focused in a timely manner to find those and act upon them. This is really critical to implement a zero trust strategy. Even today in ransomware attacks, you can understand what data they have by some exfiltration that is done, and basically that is available on the dark web or on different sources. So you can assess what strategy you're gonna implement to mitigate that ransomware attack, which is kind of happening at the moment. So if you decide that this data is backed up and you don't want to negotiate with those threat actors, and that is absolutely fine and a good way to go about it, but at least you are covered and you understand the damage that can happen from that data. And then, and last but not the least, is really finding that you can identifying the source, finding the source and remediating. So what I highlighted here is like an example of a proactive way you can identify a phishing attack on your company's brand, on your company's website by a piece of code that resides. And it's just an example, just to illustrate it. So that proactively helped you trigger a signal in your zero trust strategy that says that your site is being phished, duplicated, and that will trigger you a process to do a takedown by an alert being sent. So having that mechanism actually allowed you to be to have peace of mind that your customers will not be redirected or your employees will not be redirected to some place where they will share their credentials, and God knows what will happen with that. And then after that, reporting and showing you clear KPIs is important, and this is also a very part of the strategy, and ensuring remediations, connecting with the SOC, the SIEM, the SOAR systems that you have to take mitigation action is something that is also part, and the threat intelligence can then issue the mitigation request. I'm going to pause for a moment and talk and walk you through a few examples of that real things that happen. And again, I have obfuscated some of the data, so you don't really understand who the people are, but this will just illustrate to you a bit of the challenges that you are going through. So let's look at one of those challenges as leaked credentials. When you identify these sources of risk, leaked credentials, so a key global organization, and you can see their credentials, emails, and the passwords all was leaked, and that was available in the dark web for sale. So it means I could purchase that, I could use it, and log in to that company's network, and then from there, put up a Trojan, send out some kind of malware, actually do as what I want, and that actually was identified very quickly. An alert was sent to the organization, and they mitigated it by sending a SOC request to reset passwords of those. So all this is very automated. So basically, you didn't lose any part of your efforts in not being breached, and that was automated. And basically now those users got a notification to reset their password, and a breach was kind of averted, really fortifying your security and zero trust strategy. Let me talk about a company-wide phishing attempt. So you can look at this brand, very nice brand, Tommy. Today I'm not wearing one of their golf t-shirts. It is, and this site is actually a fake phishing site that is Hilfiger shoes goods gift.ru. So people are not really, they got a link, they got an email, 50% discount, very attractive offer, go for it. Can be also on a banking site. The person clicked, he's not really attentive always to look at the the URL. It can be very lookalike. It can be Hilfiger with a small, it can be exactly the same domain with a small sign that changes. That's one instead of an I. And I can guarantee you, even with my really careful scrutiny, I will not identify the difference. And I will get an exact site where I can, I enter my credentials and I lose a control after that to a hacker or threat actor. This is kind of, the world is becoming more sophisticated, and it's a real life example of a bank in South Africa that we found multiple kits are available, multiple kits available for sale. So we understood it was a phishing kit, and you immediately kind of located the threat actor and actually helped take action against the threat actor. So that's kind of helping you again fortify your zero trust strategy. Natalie mentioned insider threat. That happens a lot. Sometimes it's accidental, maybe most of the time. Sometimes it's on purpose. Sometimes it's from hate. Sometimes it's from other kind of people are tricked into giving their credentials. So that is important that you have monitor that even on the outside. You can today use identity tools, for identity and access management, but once it's out in the open, then it's difficult to kind of understand what's happening. So for you, from the outside, you can really understand what the threat of the insider was, and if it's an information disclosure, a sensitive file that was publicly available, customer and employee PIIs, and multiple things that are possible, source codes, and can log in. So this was kind of an example of a bank system where the employee kind of had his details here, and basically he shared it on. He has an internal tool called Trello. It's like a work management flow, and his credentials of this Trello were leaked out accidentally, and that was used as an entry point into the organization. So again, it can be very sophisticated and very easy. We spoke about shadow IT, and I kind of mentioned it a bit briefly, but it's very important in this swift digitalization world to identify every asset. Sometimes departments take on different tools, and the IT is not involved there. So the mapping the attack surface is very critical and can help prevent any kind of shadow IT that is not covered, again, posing a risk for you. Why would shadow IT be a risk? It's a big risk, especially in your zero trust, if you don't really know what are the assets and how they are, how they can affect and impact your security. So it can be a way in, you see a vulnerability to hijacking, and basically that would help the organization be very vulnerable. And our tool helps you to kind of map all your IP addresses, all your digital assets, and monitor them on an ongoing basis and identify, look out for vulnerabilities. Again, social media also is today taking a critical part in phishing activities in different ways. And people, try to impersonate. Somebody can think that a CEO of the organization's Twitter account is sending him a message. He may be sending it to an employee and say, listen, I need this, very important. And you get a Twitter or a Facebook. I'm in, I don't know, in the road. I couldn't access my network. I want you to give me a reset and give me an immediate password. Different things have been done, different things have been used. So very important to identify these kind of things and nip them in the bud. Fraud, credit cards for sales, etc., in credentials. This has been used on multiple cases we have detected, highlighted, and helped people secure their customers. So at the end of the day, you don't want a dissatisfied customer and having him kind of spreading bad news is not something you'd like. So we help banks and credit card institutions to mitigate that before it became a problem. Going back to zero trust and the strategy. So I think you need to really take what Natalie highlighted and build a really super, I would say, cohesive and comprehensive zero trust strategy. And in that, integrate that you are able to receive pinpointed intelligence, by targeted intelligence to help you fortify that strategy. If you need, you can partner with a vendor like us here to help you, to help support you on the threat intelligence side, and then make sure that all this information is augmented and be able to seamlessly passed on to your different security platforms, having a 360 protection for you, making it really a winning combination. So that's kind of my presentation on what I think is really a comprehensive and a necessary part of your zero trust strategy. And with that, we'll open up it to questions. Both Natalie and myself are here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Reuben, for this interesting session. You always amaze, as usual. We have a very interesting question. So we have one question. It says, why would you choose to pick Cyberint from all the other firms? That's a very easy question or answer for me to provide.
I'll leave it to you to answer. I am biased.
Yeah, that's one for me, I think. So first of all, Cyberint, they are amazing beyond the perimeter. They don't only provide threat intelligence beyond the perimeter, but they have this culture where they're quick, they're immediately there, they do the necessary. You don't have to ask twice, and they really do it out of their hearts, which is very important today to work with amazing people. Down to the bottom. Let me explain. So the first time when I reached out to Cyberint, I actually reached out to different providers, which did not exactly provide the same services as Cyberint do. I actually reached out to the CEOs of each company. I have to say the CEO of Cyberint reached out to me like 10 minutes after I've sent him an email. I was amazed. because most CEOs are a bit of a snob and think they're too important to answer an email, with all the respect to all the CEOs, but truth be told. Secondly, Cyberint, the other CEOs, some of them did not respond at all, and others responded after 2 weeks' time, which was a bit too late for my client. Secondly, they provide threat intelligence that is not really available on the European market, in the sense that there may be a lot of software protection companies, but those companies, they keep sending you alerts and risk assessments every weekend, every Friday, every Monday. But the alerts have to be dealt with. So you need an internal type of department within your company who will be able to deal with the information that is provided to you. And then you have to take the mitigating measures, which not everybody knows how to do. Third, they do not operate from within your system, which I think is a very important aspect. They operate from the back side, actually. So they're out there, they're always on guard, and they're like the Prince Charming that protects his princess, being the company. I like princes and princesses. So they do the required also to take down whatever they find, which is also very, very, very important. So they do not only find the breach, they take it down. Not a lot of companies can do the takedown part. Another thing that is very, very important is that Cyberint provides different services. So they can provide you with a specific service, which is only with regard to phishing attacks. They can provide you extra consultants. They can provide you with more, with less. They're very, very flexible, which is also something you don't really find on the European market, because they have packages and then you have to deal with the package. But let's say you don't want that specific package. Cyberint is flexible enough to enable you to choose and cherry pick. Maybe fifth or sixth, Cyberint is very, very, very intelligent and very, they're very upfront. They're looking into the future. They're thinking, they're quick, and they have an answer to each question. So I think I have given you enough reasons why to choose Cyberint above all. But should you have any other questions, you can always reach out to me. I mean, through my personal phone number or through email, and I'm always happy to discuss or provide you with more information. Reuben, is there anything else you want to add, maybe?
No, I think that at the end of the day, you highlighted it very well. So, we will share the presentation, as Natalie mentioned at the beginning, and, also a copy of the slide decks if you want to keep with all the information. We are happy to also share that. Will be sent out. Again, as Natalie said, feel free to reach out, anytime, anywhere, anyway. So, and we are here to support and facilitate on our side. I think from Natalie's side, it's very important the perspective and the holistic approach of building a strategy and getting that. I think that's the core element first, and then adding to it the technology to support it is the next step. So, I think together it was a pleasure to do this presentation with you, Natalie, and thank you everybody for attending.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here for the entire hour, because we know that it's not so easy, but I hope it was interesting for you. Thank you so much, Reuben, for your time and for the interesting presentation. And of course, we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks a lot and have a wonderful day.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.